Greetings to the Education 360 Alliance and all of the extraordinary community members and territory leaders that have come out today. My name is Leslie Beller, and I'm coming to you from our Chicago community, from an organization called MHA Labs. And we are about a decade old. And unlike a traditional formal organization or governmental organization, we really grew as a grassroots community, which means that people from school situation and our government and our after school programs and parents and young people really came together about 10 years ago. And so I kind of sat down and thought about, what does it really mean to grow up in a community where everyone is really dedicated to your development and your success, both as an individual and as a community, and kind of as a citizen of our larger, broader goals. And just kind of center around what are the core values and principles of what it means to be in charge of raising young people, right? So whether you are a parent, you are a teacher, you are an elected official, in many ways, our broader job is to build and grow a society that is thriving and healthy and supports everyone, and that we must kind of generate and support each new group of young people that kind of enters into that space so they're prepared to really actively participate equitably. So I kind of want to share some of the values that we kind of grounded on that really help to adopt a very practical skill building strategy. So one, we centered the idea that growing up in this world is navigating what it means to grow your own personal identity. And second, we felt that any community or society should identify what are the skills that every young person would need to navigate through that experience. So whether it's going through school or home or building friendships, building families, going to work, being a citizen, being an elected official, what are all the skills that we can all coalesce around to say, if every young person had this, or every person had this, every friend, every family member, every spouse, how would that play out differently in our society? And second, we believe that all of these spaces need to be grounded in a concept of kind of equity and anti-discrimination. Now, I don't know how that applies to your community, but I'm sure there are some layers where young people or adults from different backgrounds may face discrimination, whether it's growing up in school or especially at work. And so lastly is, we don't feel that it is solely up to a school or an educator to be singularly responsible for growing a young person. I'm super excited about the kind of 360 initiative because it's truly embracing the out of school time space. And I love that you called it kind of educational leisure, which is young people are navigating through, they wake up in kind of a home setting, they're going to school, they're going to after school, they're with their friends, or they're going to an internship or work. And how do all of these communities play a role in coming together to make that meaningful and kind of integrated so that young people aren't just fracturing across these spaces, but really believing that their growth is flowing across all of these domains, and that a parent or guardian and a teacher and an employer and your policy officials all feel just absolutely committed to building that integrated ecosystem. Now, the next phase for our work was, okay, now that we're all in agreement on that, we really looked at it and I thought, do we have a shared language for what that means? Now, we might all agree of what basic literacy means or numeracy, but yes, there's still fights in there. Or what it means to be a good carpenter or a good computer programmer. But ironically, the one thing that drove all of these spaces was being a phenomenal human being in those spaces. So MHA actually stands for the means of human achievement. And what we realized early on is that we had absolutely no agreement on what that kind of a framework for basically being a human being would be, and what could we all agree on that we would all commit to. So MHA built a framework called the building blocks. We had about 120 people working collectively together, whether it was researchers, counselors, teachers, parents, teens themselves. And we worked across multiple language barriers to make sure that even cross-culturally within America, we were all could come around, we call it a campfire, to kind of come around a shared agreement. Now, whether the language was perfect or not, Now, one of the challenges you might face in this is that people don't like to be having language or a framework kind of forced upon them, right? Because they see it as standards or competencies. So what we really focused on was the importance of shared language. And then the second one was, as you think about rolling it out and implementing it, we realized there were just some basic things that we needed to share and understand collectively about what were the learning changes we had to implement. Like, what does it actually mean to be skilled versus just knowledgeable? So we kind of brought in this concept, which is certainly not new to the working world, this idea of performing. So if here's this activity we're going to do, here are the skills that are involved. I'm going to be really upfront and share with you, what does it mean to do well on those skills? So as I'm navigating through experiences, I'm actually constantly unpacking and constantly narrating, here's this thing I did it really well. What skills did I use to do really well? Maybe I was struggling and maybe I just flat out failed. I can say, what skills was I not as good on? Or what skills did I not have? And that kind of created that outcome. And how can I ask someone to help me build those skills? And again, the person that can help you build those skills, especially around 21st century skills, social emotional skills, is my parent, my sibling, my cousin, my teacher, my out of school time instructor, my employer. Anybody in the community can be a co-creator, because remember, we created shared language and we created shared values. And last but not least, I just want to share that, so everything's going great, right? You have shared values, you have kind of this shared language now, and now you kind of know what learning looks like and what performing looks like, and whether it's out of school time or school. But the biggest barrier that you, as coming down from kind of outside leaders in your community, is that the people who are on the front lines, that instructor who's working with that young person, that daycare coordinator, that teacher, that employer, they have to change the way they exist every day in their setting to make these changes. So what you're going to probably need to do is think about, what are you currently doing? What initiatives have you rolled out in the past 10 years? There's probably 1,000 of them. And you're going to have to say, does this matter more than all of those other things? Because if you add something to the space, you're asking people to give more time, more energy, more thought, and that something might need to come back out of that. And you have to commit and promise to every single person in this community, because this takes a lot of work, changing your curriculum, changing your teaching styles, that you have to commit that you're willing to do this for the long term. Because the reality is, the priority you're making is the priority to grow a human being. So this work is about humanity, right? So like the way we teach math might change, the way we teach English, but the fundamental core natures of what it means to be a human in this world and to navigate this world in a positive, healthy, happy way, I think should always be center to any educational or any kind of political agenda. So this idea of shared values, shared language, shared processes, providing this space. And then last but not least, the biggest, most important thing is to celebrate. Celebrate what people are amazing at. Celebrate the extraordinary changes and that might be happening in your out of school time, in your community. Celebrate parents who are doing this. But the last one, it has to be a joyful process. So if you center this idea that this work should be joyful and positive, and what you are doing is helping a young person fully manifest who they are and contribute to this world. And if you share that value and you share that love throughout the whole process, I promise you that you will be incredibly successful.